Hi, it's Roger here with the Q&A video for Genius Entrepreneur Mastermind, February 2019, and welcome to the year of the pig, year of the golden pig this year. So lots of prosperity apparently coming our way. Thank you everyone for all of your questions. I'm going to jump right into it, and I'm going to revert back, as I know in the last call we actually went through kind of like randomly the entire lighthouse. I'm going to go back to climbing the lighthouse from the base upwards, and so I've organized all the questions into the different levels, and so you can kind of see how many of the questions are similar if people are asking off the same level. And I'm going to start with a couple of general questions, which is kind of outside the lighthouse before we get started. First one here is from Marie Rizika in America, who says, in the assessment last month of your biggest takeaway from the LA and San Diego shows, you mentioned that San Diego was ready to be there, and I was there, and I agree. Have you been able to turn around a city to be able to hear the message of igniting your genius or their genius, and what was the process? I wouldn't, no, I have not at this point turned around a whole city, but that doesn't mean that cities aren't being turned around, right? So no question that if you go back to when we got started, way back in 2002, we didn't even talk about social entrepreneurs in those days, right? We were talking about kind of like conscious entrepreneurs and things like that. And when we first started talking about the idea that people could actually make money and give money at the same time, they could actually go and build profit and purpose together. No one was really talking about it. Even the likes of people like Richard Branson were not actually doing things for a cause. The Giving Pledge hadn't started yet. There were a few people like Bill Gates that was out there kind of doing that, but that was kind of because he'd retired and people called him more like a philanthropist. So, so what was the thing that made it all change? And the answer is community, right? It was peer pressure, right, and peer influence. When you have enough people around you that you're connected to, where you can find a tribe and a group that actually believe in the same things that you do, when you see what people are now putting their time into, and in the same way, what you might love to see your friend doing, or love to see your parents or your brother and sister or your children doing, your family doing, in all of these cases, you start to scale that, which is really what a community is. It's a scaled family. Once you start realizing that belonging is the core to any drive that we have, right? Like we all have this sense of belonging. In fact, I believe we have more of a drive to belong than even be happy. I mean, like some of us actually will go out of a way to not even be happy in order to belong, right? So belonging is like a huge, huge, huge human instinct. And if you really want to make a difference in the world, is how you actually create a group. Don't start with a city, start with a small group and say, what is it I'm doing to really make sure they know that I care about them enough that they actually want to belong, and that they can then care about each other, and then whatever it is you want to have an impact in, right? Like gangs, like will have an impact in negative ways, right? And then you'll have, people who are coming together for some kind of a cause, and they'll have an impact in a very positive way. You get to then choose, right? But only if you've actually built that belonging. If you're out there trying to build your own business and you're trying to sell your product before you build belonging, then you're going to lose, right? For sure, right? And you've heard me say this again and again. It's like a kettle that's not boiling. Don't start by basically complaining about the kettle. Start by plugging it in, right? Which means going to the connection. So it's all about connection. Okay, I'm going to continue to the next one. The next one here is a second general question. We had the first and last questions, right? This is room 10. Hi, Roger, can you elaborate more on the saying, there is no limit to how much you can give, but there is limit to how much you can get? Who is this quote attributed to? Room 10, the quote is attributed to me. I'm the one who said it, which is why you heard me say it, right? But basically, if you start from every day waking up saying, what do I need to get today? There's clearly a limit in that, right? It's like there's only so much you can get, and especially if you go out trying to get it, it never comes your way, right? Because it's too busy going to the people that don't have it, right? Like if you want money, try going to the bank when you need money and getting money. Not easy to do, right? But the moment you don't need the money because you've got enough, the bank will come to you, right? So it's not about how do you be the person that doesn't have something. Is how do you become the person who's already got it in such a way it just shows up, right? Like if I need good people for my team, I can either go out looking for good people for my team, which means I'll never find them, because if they're not coming to me already, it means they're going to someone else, right? For every Apple and for every Google where there's like thousands applying, not for jobs that don't even exist, there's someone else trying to get to those same people, right? So same thing, right? Like whether money in the bank, whether it's like team in a company, it starts by saying, well, who do I need to be in order that I am attracting those people coming my way? If you want to go date, right? Do you want to be the person chasing the woman, or do you want to be the person who is so attractive the woman chase you, right? And it's all about just saying, who do I need to be? Not what do I need to do, but who do I need to be that actually then attracts those things, right? And it's obvious when we look around and we say, well, who is it that actually is getting everything for whatever they need? It's the people that aren't trying to chase it, right? It's the people that are just positioning themselves to be the best opening for whatever it is that's going their way. Money will always look for a home, right? So money will always go to whoever is going to appreciate it most, right? A team member is looking for a home, and so we'll go to whoever is going to appreciate them most. And so start with the appreciation, right? And that's what we mean by the fact that you can give appreciation every day, right? You can give service every day. If you have a bunch of people that you want to somehow get something from, whether it is recognition, whether it is money, right? Like we're going to get onto this with community, right? You want 10 people to follow your Instagram page. Don't start by trying to ask 10 people to follow your Instagram page. Start by following other people's page. Start by being of value to them. Comment. Show you're interested in what they're doing. You want to have people who are going to actually pay you money. Start by seeing how you can help them earn money, right? The moment that you've got people that you're helping to make money, they'll pay some of that money back to you, right? So it's all about what can I give? What can I give? How am I serving others? And if you're going out trying to get from other people, it's going to be depressing. You're not going to get what you want anyway for all the reasons I just shared. But the moment you go out saying, right, how can I actually be of value to them? Everyone wants you to support them because everyone needs help, right? So that's what I mean. There is no limit to what you can give. And if every day you wake up saying, right, who am I going to give to today? You'll be amazed within a week at just how much you built up trust accounts with everyone around you, right? Turn every like a lot of people say, well, I haven't got the money, right? But you've got the time. You've got the same 24 hours of time as Richard Branson, right? Every day, right? So we're all as wealthy at the beginning of the day. The only difference is that he's using that time and he's converting it from time into trust. He's saying, okay, I've got a bit of time here. How can I serve this person? And then as a result, he builds trust. How can I help this person? He builds trust. Eventually, that trust comes back. Someone goes, wow, he helped me do all these different things. I'm going to now help him. I'm going to go work for that guy, right? He's generous. He's caring about me, right? So I'm going to go help him. The person that's going out constantly using that time to just chase stuff without building any trust, or basically just, like sitting around, not doing anything and not building any trust, the next day, they're at exactly the same place they were the day before. Don't expect after a week of that, you're going to be in any better position. Whereas if you build trust every single day by supporting and helping others, by the end of the week, you're in a totally different position from the beginning of the week because you've actually turned that giving from team and from time into trust. And that's what then allows the rivers of money to flow. All money flows down the rivers of trust. So if you haven't built and actually created that trust, well, then don't expect anything to come your way, right? So that's what I mean by that quote. All right, let's come into the infrared to red level. This is where we have people foundational level that really is all about how do I just get the right conduct and how do I actually get the right cash flow coming in if I'm just getting started, right? Interesting, most of our questions on this call are actually more yellow level. So I'm just gonna have a few of them here at infrared to red. It doesn't mean that some of you might not be at this level as well. So the things I'm going to share may be of real value to you as well. This is about how you just add your cash flow all the time, right? So we've got Tolu here, who's brand new here. He says, I am new to the program. I wanted how best to find someone to buddy up with. I've reached out to people and joined circles, but no joy. So that goes right to what I was just saying a moment ago to Wuntan, which is it's not about just connecting out and saying, hey, do you want to be my buddy? It's about looking and saying, who can you actually be of value to already? Who can you support in some way? You'll notice when you look at the Facebook group, when you look at the circles, there are people commenting on different things, and it's because they themselves are looking to connect with others as well. So rather than going out saying, who wants to connect with me, start by going out and picking 3 people, 4 people that you'd love to have a chance to add some value to. Contact them. Say, hey, I'd love to have a chance. I love what you do. I think what you're doing is great. I'd love to see how I can be of value in some way. I'm sure there are some things that you're struggling with or things that you'd love to actually achieve in the next month. I've got some time in my hands. I'd love to be of value, right? Like, let's have a quick chat and then let me help you out, right? And I'm happy to do it for free to begin with, just to show you that I can be of value. And then maybe in some way in the future, I can actually be helping you make more money, helping you achieve whatever you want to achieve. And maybe there's some way that might come back to me. So the moment you go from that point of service, people will find a way to bring it back to you. The key thing is once you do that, once you're supporting somebody, even as a buddy, right, is that they're seeing the value in you helping them in such a way they want to then help you as well, right? But if you're out there just asking who wants to help me, same thing, right? Like, why would anyone want to help you when you're just looking for a get? So it is about being of value and realizing every day people are already giving you clues and get connected up with them. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing is show up for the different sessions. There are all sorts of sessions once you've actually joined. Genius Entrepreneur Mastermind has sessions that we run every single month. Get on those sessions, communicate with other people, find out what they're up to, find someone that's got similar passions and purpose to you, and then be of value to them as well, right? And of course, that way you're going to find yourself a buddy because people will repay you once they see you care about them. as I keep on saying, people do not care what you think until they think that you care, right? Let's come over to the next one, which is going to be now coming up on the, do we have any orange questions? We don't, we're up to yellow already. Okay, so let's go right into it. We've got here, first of all, Anna Choi. And in fact, I'm going to go through, because there's some of these that are actually kind of linked together, some are separate, but a lot of this has to do with basically brand building, community building, which is what Yellow Level is all about. It's when you are having everything flow your way. All right, so let's have a look and see what we got here. We have got Anna. How do I know when my 8-week online training group or coaching accelerator is ready to go? Evergreen, with constant open enrollment versus how I'm doing it now in 8-week cohorts of 15 people. Right now, I have 2 more 8-week cohorts in 2019, determining the best leverage point of magnify or multiply first or both, question mark. My last accelerator ended up grossing $38,500 for 17 students, about half from speaking engagements and networking groups, and following up afterwards over a 3-month period, and the other 50% from BNI direct relationships I followed up with in my chapter. Okay, so first of all, I just want to be really clear for everyone who's kind of wondering, what does this whole evergreen thing mean? And actually, I want to make a distinction for Anna herself as well, all right? So if you say, what are the 2 main kinds of launches, right? Then you have got something which is a discontinuous launch, and you have something called a continuous launch, right? So a discontinuous launch is where you actually start and finish at a certain time, right? So if you look at someone like Jeff Walker, who runs the product launch formula, he talks about how you should basically open a promotion for a period of time, close it. If you're running an event, you have to do it that way because you've got a particular day the event's going to work. And then you might come and do it again the next year, but pretty much that is an example of like a one-off promotion, like, a Christmas promotion, right? It's like it's got a beginning, it's got an end, and that's one kind of promotion. An evergreen promotion is one that doesn't have an actual specific beginning and end, right? So there are people that do evergreen webinars, for example, where every day you could actually see an actual email for a particular webinar, and you can click and you can actually book up for the next one coming, which might be, on the Monday, and then you join on the Monday, and then you're in this webinar, and then from there you find out about other products and so on, and you go join those products as well, right? So evergreen basically means at any point you can register for something, and then you can already be part of it too. Now, I think where Anna may have a little bit of a slight distinction in what she's saying, which I want to get clear on, is Anna's already doing evergreen. You heard what she said here. You said, like, how do I go to evergreen? I'm doing these 8-week cohorts of 15 people. Right now I have 2 more 8-week cohorts in 2019. So she's got basically these kind of chunks of 8-week products that she's delivering on. And she can already be evergreen on that. She can already be saying, hey, well, the next one starts in 2 months' time, right? If you've already got 3 or 4, it means you've got one going every couple of months. So people can already be building up to actually the next one coming, and then it shows up. And if they miss that one, they go to the next one, right? So it's already evergreen, right? The way you've designed it. You just might not be marketing it that way. What Anna might be talking about with evergreen is something where she doesn't have to show up herself for the product. Because right now she's like, I got to keep on showing up to do these 8-week programs, right? So when you're, now that, by the way, that's not evergreen, that's automated, which is different, okay? Automated is when you actually got an online product which people can come and join anytime, and you don't have to be there at all because they just come in and they consume the product. The reality, like, so for example, our Wealth Dynamics, right? So Wealth Dynamics to us is a example of an evergreen, but also automated funnel, because people will come in, they'll just kind of type in, they'll pay their $97, and then they'll basically do the test. Or they will download an e-guide. They'll learn all about Wealth Dynamics. They'll get excited by it, right? And then they'll buy the test, right? Or and so on. There's a number of different ways people come through. So we end up with a whole bunch of people taking it every single month. That's evergreen and automated. Genius Entrepreneur Mastermind, which is what you guys are on right now, is evergreen, but it's also got a personal touch. I'm here speaking to you, and I'm investing my time to build a community and also to be sharing with you my knowledge with whatever's going on live, like at the spot that we actually run our events. And then of course, doing these kind of videos as well, right? That's also evergreen, but it's the way that Anna's doing her one too, right? So I want to make 2 different decisions, and you might be asking one question or both questions. To the first question, which is, can you have this as an ongoing basis? The answer is yes already, but you need to know that to really make evergreen work well, you need to have an ongoing flow of people coming through, which means you have to have something which allows them to test out whatever it is that you're actually wanting to sell or what you want people to buy in the first place, in terms of a download, in terms of a free webinar where people can really understand it and go, okay, this is going to be worth my money, right? If you do that in the right way, then it all comes down to price point, okay? Because if you do that and someone goes, oh, I really, really like this, but you want to be automated, like, and just, by the way, I'm just going to compare this to your numbers right now. You said you had 38,500 from 17 students. So that tells me that you're charging each student just over $2,000 each, right? So you're charging what, 2,000 and a bit. If you're at that point, right, you can't go evergreen automated, because the most you can really get automated is around about $300 on an ongoing basis. If you're lucky, you might get something at $1,500 if it's super, super valuable, but you're not going to be able to really keep that going on an ongoing basis. And you'll find that a lot of the people out there that are selling products, which is all content, is at 300 or below, right? And that's really the most you can go today, because frankly, people can get it free on YouTube, right? So number one, that if you want to go evergreen automated, is about, number one, making sure you've got that pathway where people can really understand and learn and say, this is what I want. And then you've then got something which is around about the $300 mark. If you say, okay, well, actually, I want to have something at a higher dollar value, but I want this to be something where I actually am building a community, where I'm adding into it, provided it's something like a one-year community, what we do at Gem is absolutely almost perfect, right? It's like $97 a month, you know, it's like over the year, it's like $1,200 or so, or you can make it like $1,000 or so. And if someone's getting value from that, if they're going, you know what, like I'm getting enough value that this is basically something which enables me, if I'm really using these tools, to make more than $1,000 in the year, right? And as long as they're applying, they've got to make that from something like Gem. Someone who doesn't apply, they won't come back. Someone who's applying, they'll keep on renewing, right? So that's where you've actually got something which is easier for someone to come on board on. And if you're at that point, great, you can come on board. Now, you're not there yet, right? Because you're at a $2,000, which means you're at a much higher level. So what do you need to do is basically not just expect that people are going to just make a decision online who don't already know you. Now, if they've come for an event that you've run, if they've come for some kind of a session where they kind of like got enough trust that they're now willing to put money down that river, great. Well, then at that point, you can sell something at $2,000. But generally, evergreen online, if you're going to basically have something which is over $1,500, and again, I know I'm very generalized here because you might have something super, super valuable, but generally, in my experience, if you want to be at a high level, what you need to do is have that particular direction point where you're going to have a one-on-one call with somebody, where you're going to give them the opportunity to share with you what their real big goals are, what they really want to achieve. And on that call, it's possible to actually have something at $2,000, $3,000, even $4,000, because someone at that point, if they really get that you can have a solution to their problem, are going to be willing to invest that kind of money into it if they get that trust level with you as well. But it takes that actual one-on-one connection to really build trust at that level as well, right? And what I would say is that for you to go evergreen, either drop from 2,000 down to about 1,000 to 1,500 and actually then automate it, the marketing, not the actual delivery. Or if you really want the whole thing automated, have a version of your product at $300 that people can have automated, right? Or $297, right? And if you say, no, I actually want to have a chance to have a conversation with someone and find out if it's the right thing for them, qualify them in, then don't leave it at 2,000, put it up to 3,000, right? Or even 4,000. So at the moment, you're kind of in this little bit of a no man's land on your pricing. It's great that you got going already, but to actually go forward, choose one model that you're most comfortable with. They'll all work, right? But for all the reasons I just shared, people will always have a trust threshold at which they're willing to give something a go or not based on pricing. And of course, that's going to change from country to country, but overall, that's the kind of base rules around this. Okay, let's come over to Nina. So Nina has here, hi, Roger. You helped me understand social media in your answer last call. What are your top tips for engaging with your community online? I will continue sharing success stories, as you mentioned. Do you have any frameworks, tools, or tips for thinking about this? Now, I'm going to actually drop down because there's a few others that also around community. Gabriel, very next one from Mexico. After the EFT Mexico, I've seen the rise of a new community that I can nurture. I am thinking to leverage on the Entrepreneur Socials every month and for the Flow Consultants a Zoom meeting once a month. Do you have any advice or idea on how to grow the community and eventually create a cash flow line? So a very similar question about how do you build a community with a few other kind of like bells and whistles in terms of what Gabriel's doing. Let me roll down a little bit further because I want to make sure that I've actually got everyone that's asking the same question. Got a question here, which is coming from Danette, right? So Danette's one is using Go to the Flow concept. We know there is flow in Entrepreneurs Institute, Genius U, Chris Circle, Flow Consult, and so on. What's the best way to tap into the flow? I know you can have your business on Genius U and put products on the platform, but I'm not connecting the dots. So thank you so much, and a big thank you for last month's answer. And then we've got also Saeed here who says, or Sajid, who says, we'll be starting to build my social media following. What is the best way to do this in terms of going from 0 to 10 followers, 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000, right? So each one has got basically the same question with different like parts of it. So I'm actually going to use, I'm going to come to Danette's last, and I'm going to use Sajid's one as the base to explain all this to you, right? Because the truth is, how you build community will depend on the scale of the community. So I'll just go through each very briefly, right? You're at 0. You want to build some kind of a following from 0, and you want to just get your first 10 followers, right? Do not go out there and create some like big, funnel and hope everyone comes and joins your Facebook page. Like, do not do all of that and then just go out and spam everybody, right? It does not work, as I'm sure anyone here who's tried that knows does not work. Why would anyone who is coming to like you want to come join your community if they don't know who you are? And the answer is they won't if they come and they see there's no one following. Generally, think about it for yourself. When you go to watch someone on Instagram, or when you go and look at someone with a Facebook group or a Facebook page, what do you look for? You look for social proof. You go and you see, well, who else is actually following this person? If you can see there's hundreds of thousands or millions following, you're much more likely to click the follow button, right? If, on the other hand, you see there's only 50 or 100, and you see they only got started, you're only going to follow if you if you don't know them, you're really going to only follow if you actually have something that you saw they did, which was so compelling, you thought, I need more of this, right? That's the only reason you do it at the beginning. On the other hand, how many of you have gone out and followed someone who's a friend, right? You all do it, right? So the first 10 people that you need to get following you should be people who are your friends. Easy, right? And by the way, like, not just friends who are not your target audience, but friends who are also your target audience. And the way you get them in isn't by sending them a mass email, right? It's going to each of them one by one. It's sitting down with them for a coffee and saying, hey, I've just set up this Facebook group. By the way, if you're doing something which is like consumer-based, Facebook's still best, right? If you're doing something that's video-based, YouTube's still best. If you're doing something which is graphically based and where you're just looking basically to get your image out, Instagram is best, right? And if you're looking for business, then LinkedIn is best. So you really, each one, depending on what kind of a market you have and your purpose of why you're doing it. But let's say you set up a Facebook group and you say, right, this is what I'm going to be focusing at. Let's say someone like Sajid decides to do that and he sets up that group. And I'm going to come back to Genius U, right? Like, we say now do Genius U for a number of reasons, but when I get to then, I'll explain what's different about Genius U. But let's imagine you do something everyone's familiar with, is Facebook. So when you go there, then you're going out and you're looking for those 10 people and you're saying, look, I'd love for you to follow, not just to do you a favor, but because you're actually going to be sharing on a mission or a particular thing you're going to do where you're asking, would this be of value to you? I would love to get your feedback and what you think. And as they're thinking, oh yeah, I think it would be, ask them, what are you doing that I can support, right? Because at the end of the day, when you post your first thing and no one is liking your stuff, right, you're going to get depressed. You're going to lose your confidence. If, on the other hand, the first 10 people you've got following you, you know what it is you can do to support them. Guaranteed. If you go to one of them and they've got an Instagram page or they've got something and you see what they've done and you put a like and you put a comment, they will reciprocate. Like almost all people do, because they go, well, that was so nice. I got this comment from Roger and so on. And I remember him saying that he was actually doing this thing on his one as well. I'm going to click on his one. I'm going to like one of his things too, right? I'm going to comment on his thing. So give before you get, which is the whole theme of this session. That's how you get your first 10 people. That's it. Simple. If you're not doing that, you're not going to get to 10, or you're going to be really depressed when you get to 10 and no one's liking your stuff, and the people that come won't come back anyway, right? So how do you get from 10 to 100, right? So 10 to 100 is when you've now got a core group of people and get into conversation with the people that are actually posting or sharing things with you, and post and share on their things as well. From 10 to 100, you are now cherry picking the people who are either people you already know of, who are now going to come on board and see there's a conversation going on, that there's things that you're actually finding really interesting that you're sharing with others within your group, that you're sharing things that might already have lots of comments and things as well from outside of your group that people can see has got lots of interaction, which they find interesting too. But then you're going out for your next 90 people to get from 10 to 100, and many of these people will be people you may know, but they may also be people that you're now finding that have a similar, like a purpose or passion than you have. That's where Genius U is so valuable, because you can find the people local to you or people that have those two things as well. So that's the second thing, is that you're actually going out and finding those people. And when you find them, you're not sending them a message. Like, let's imagine you are into dogs, right? And you go onto Facebook and you go and start searching the different sites of dog lovers. And you find the dog lovers and you see them all there, right? And there's thousands of them, hundreds of thousands of them there. You don't just go clicking on people saying, come follow my stuff. What you do is you go and you find the people that you actually would love to have as one of your first 100 followers, and you find out what they're interested in. You're more interested in actually learning about them and their market and what they're doing well than you are in the fact that they're actually following. But by you being passionate about that, you'll find people who naturally follow you back as well. You go to each of them one by one. You find out what they're posting on their wall. You like their stuff. You make a comment about their stuff as well. You pay it forward, right? Some of them will ignore you totally, right? Some of them will say, hey, thanks for that, and they're not going to follow anything you do. But some of them are going to get into conversation with you, and then as they're in conversation, you can go back right to them and say, hey, by the way, I've got this group over here. I'd love for you to give me your feedback on how I'm growing my group. And you'll say, great, I'll come join that as well. And so others then joining onto it too. It's like, hey, I've just posted your post, which I really liked, into my group. I'd love if you could actually share a bit more about why you did that post with everyone who's in the group. I've just got started, so I've only got like 20 people that are following me right now, but I just really love your stuff and I want to be posting more as I grow. Those people, like, they're going to go, wow, this guy's really nice. He's actually, liked my stuff. He's commented on my stuff. And now, basically, he's asking me for feedback on his. And why not? I'll just go and I'll do that. So getting from 10 to 100 that way means that you know every one of those 100 people who've actually joined you. Now, you could say, none of that's scalable, Roger. It's not meant to be scalable, right? It's meant to be sustainable, which is different. Too many people are trying to scale things that aren't sustainable. And then, like, the whole thing falls flat. And you've suddenly got like 1,000 followers and no one's commenting on anything. And they're not really followers. They were just people that you went out to and they just clicked on one button and they had no intention of coming back. But actually going out to people in a way that there's glue, there's trust, and they're thinking, this is valuable, I'm going to come back. It's worth my time to do this, which is really what community is. It's people not paying you money. It's people paying you time. That's what makes all the difference, right? So that's how you get from 10 to 100. Now you got 100 people. Now at 100 people, that's when things change, right? Because now people aren't just going to come. The moment you're over 100, the moment you get to 1,000, anyone who's clicking to join is now thinking, well, he's not going to mention me or she's not going to notice me anyway because I'm just not one of many. So now conversation is the most important thing. Connecting with different people, noticing different people and what they do. If someone actually follows you, like look at their stuff and go, wow, that was really interesting what they're doing. Like do a shout out for them, say, hey, well, big thank you to such and such for following. By the way, did you know they're doing this at the moment? Right? And so others in the group go, wow, that's really interesting. They actually took the time on there. Like, again, it's all about care, right? So once you're doing that, you start actually getting to that point where over 100, you're now at a point where people will be ready, if they're getting value from what you're delivering, to tell other people, right? They're not going to do it before that. But now they're going to go, wow, this is a really good place to come and share it. I'm going to tell my friends to come and be part of this as well. And the way that happens is that you're creating some kind of an experience, which you can already do with 100 people if they're the people that you've got in the way I've mentioned. How do you do an experience? You do an online Facebook Live where you're chatting with people who are actually in the group, right? You do a webinar, right? Which is basically just a small way for us people to get together on Zoom call, have a conversation to go deeper in a particular area. You bring on someone that you want everyone to meet, who's a speaker or who's got some kind of a reputation that people are going to be interested in. And you build it into an actual event, which is an experience. So the difference of a content and experience is content is something which will touch your brain. Experience is something which will touch your heart, right? It's something that actually is more than just I'm reading something and I might pass it on and it's just up to me being here on my own to make that judgment. It's now where I'm actually showing up with other people in an experience where we're all part of this together. Remember what I said earlier about belonging? Content does not give you belonging. Experiences give you belonging, right? So you're now lifting it to that third level. So going from 100 to 1,000 comes from experiences more than content, right? This is not the time for content marketing. It's a time when you might share other people's things that give them an experience of the fact that you care about them, but you don't actually need to create much content yourself. You can just create the best stuff and create the best stuff so they really like what you're delivering to them and they know it's not a waste of time and it's worth their time, right? This will build up from 10 to now how long should it take you to do this, right? If you do a good job, 0 to 10, you can do in a couple of days. You can easily do in a week. 10 to 100, you can easily do in a week. You're only looking for 15 people a day. That's going to get you to 100, right? Like within 2 weeks, you can have 100 people who are the right people that are a part of it, right? From now, going from 100 to 1,000, that's not going to take a week unless you're really good at it, but you could easily do that within a month, right? Which means you're now 6 weeks in and you've now got 1,000 people. And from that 1,000, you've got people who are coming on board because they're hearing about the bigger things that you're doing. You can be sharing about it. And at that point, now you should be doing advertising, right? Now you can do Facebook ads, now you can do LinkedIn ads, you can do YouTube ads, where people will come along and see you've already got 1,000 followers. They're already engaged and they're actually commenting. And then of course others will go, okay, this is worth me coming to as well. And you just start seeing strangers show up that actually now can see really the value of being part of what you're doing as well, right? And that's the stages, right? Super duper important to follow those paths, or else you're going to create something, like I said, which might scale short term, but will not be sustainable long term, which means you can never actually grow it anyway, right? And 1,000, 10,000, you can do very quickly if you're actually advertising, provided you've got something of value when people show up. And that's when you can start building more content marketing and actually getting people involved in all sorts of competitions and things that they can actually then feel that they're actually belonging at a larger tribe level as well. Now, from what Sajid said, let's go back to some of the earlier questions, which is Nina, where she asked the question, like, help me understand social media more. That's my top tips. That's exactly how you go about doing it. And those are the stages of what you do as well. For Gabriel, right, like asking, okay, well, what about if I'm, doing my entrepreneur social every month, my flow consultant Zoom meeting a month, is that good enough? 100%, those are experiences, right? And the more you actually then also give people actions off those experiences, hey, post your biggest learning that came from this. What's your biggest need that people could actually help you with right now, right? And then you help facilitate that so people find real value in it. So it's not just about them coming on board and just commenting and not getting a result, but actually getting results from being there as well, right? And then starting to actually take some of those stories and highlighting those people so they think this is really great, and others go, I want to be highlighted as well, right? All of that basically is about building incentive to keep coming back and working with you as well. The easiest way to then actually turn that into a cash flow line is giving people the next thing they want after experience, which is direction, right? Everyone doesn't want information. They want direction. They want someone to guide them in some particular way in whatever your niche is. So for Gabriel, you could say, okay, look, I'm actually doing 5 consultations this week where I've got these 5 spots. Normally I charge like $300 for it. I'm giving them to whoever are the 5 people here who really are looking right now for a big change in your life in the coming months. And this is free, right? This is me just basically giving you the tools to really be successful in what you do. You get on that call and you say, hey, I'm going to go through a couple of questions which help me to really get clear on where you want to go. Really want to make this super high value for you. Are you good with that? They're going to go, yeah, of course I'm good with that. And then say, look, at the end of it, you can decide if you think that from the things I said, there's more we could do together, because I've got obviously a whole bunch of things I'm doing, helping clients. And it may or may not be that at the end of it, it makes sense that we should do something together. They'll go, okay, that sounds fine. So you're not going to try and sell them anything while you're helping them. And then you actually go through and make sure you give them lots of value. And at the end of all that value, you say, was this a value? And they go, yes, it was. It was great, right? If they say no, then you got to do a better job at it. But if they go, yeah, that was great value, then you can say at the end of it, okay, great. What do you want to hear about what I would suggest that we do next? And they go, yeah. It's like, well, I've got this consulting package that works in this way. From what you've shared, I think this could actually work really well for you. It will help you get this result. And see what they say, right? They might say it's too expensive. They might say it's the wrong time. And then find something else that is like at the right price point and is worth their time, right? Because there'll be something if they already saw value in what you do. And always end at the end to say, hey, what would be a really big favor, given that we just had this free session, is if you could just go on and just post about this session, right? Like, if you actually went into a group and just said, hey, thanks for Gabriel, like this is what I learned out of it, or hey, like, anyone who's thinking about doing this in the future, here was my experience. Love you to do that as kind of a payment, as a way of saying thank you, right? And so whether or not they decide to do things with you or not, you're building trust all the time as you go as well, right? Super duper important. And then that brings me finally to the question which you heard also earlier, which I'm getting to. This is the next question, which is, all right, how does this all fit into Genius U? So the 4 Keys program, and you can all contact Kathleen on this, where Kathleen is the community manager now for all of our mentors. And the 4 Keys program is about the 4 things that if you're going to actually build a community-based business, you have to have. So whether you're a mentor, a trainer, an event organizer, you have to have these 4 things. The first one, which is Dynamo, right? Which is basically that's the part where we're really looking at, the bright light, right? The magic lamp, okay? That first one is all about your marketing. It's about how do you actually bring people in the first place, and having the opportunity to get with people who already understand wealth dynamics, who understand what it is to be a global entrepreneur, which clearly Genius U is full of, right? And then actually getting connected up with the people there that have had a good job of actually delivering the marketing. We do all our marketing via Genius U, right? So like when we fill up our events, we're doing it using all the tools in Genius U. When we're doing all of our programs like GEM, we're doing all in Genius U, because it makes it much easier on the marketing side, because we're getting better information about people than just, their LinkedIn CV resume, right? Or their photos on Facebook. We're getting what is their passions, what is their purpose. People are putting information on Genius U about what they really care about, and that becomes a much easier way to qualify who the right people want to get to. If I want to find blue level investors, I can go to Genius U and I can see, well, who's taken the spectrum test and has come out blue level, and I can go straight to those people, right? Like there's nowhere else in the world you can get that. So number one, qualification on the right people, way easier to then actually find the right people to work with. And of course, that means also the right partners that you can then partner up with, knowing that they're already showing what they really, really want to do, right? Second thing is then on the Blaze side, right? So the Blaze side is all about now the community. Like, how do you build a community? And you'll find that on the 4 keys, and Kathleen's doing this all the way through, where she's teaching people and taking them through on a month-by-month basis. how do you actually set up a community with the right onboarding, sending the right emails at the right time, giving people all the right information they need, but not too much information so they don't get too overwhelmed when they come and join a group. And then how do you actually look after them and have all the tools that allow you to actually be able to track what are people up to if you're mentoring them on the platform, because you get all these mentor tools. Everyone on this call you're all mentors, right? So you get the mentor tools, and most of you probably aren't using them. But when you get the mentor tools, you can see what each of the people you're mentoring, once they've actually accepted you as their mentor, you can see behind the scenes, not just what micro degrees they've actually gone through and what progress they're making on it, but even their assessments, like how much they assess themselves at, all that result, you can get that too, right? You can see what steps they took and what steps they didn't take. So when you're actually then following up with them, you can go, well, not a surprise you didn't figure out your purpose. You only took the first 2 steps of the purpose test, right? And people go, yeah, good point. Okay, I'll go do the rest of it. So really, really valuable on the community side to really understand like how to actually bring them all on board. And right now, what tends to happen is you have got all of these different tools that don't necessarily speak to each other, right? The way we had to do things before Genius U is we had to keep our products, our books in Amazon. We had to, this is me, I had to keep them on Amazon. I had to keep like any kind of like, online courses, like our Flow Consultant course was actually on Udemy. Had to run all our events on Eventbrite. Had to run all our community on Facebook. It's like none of these things spoke to each other. So we couldn't see who had bought the book and also come to the event and also like actually, like shown up and gone through, the Udemy course all in one place. You couldn't see that anywhere, right? Because they all don't speak to each other. So Genius U brings it all in one place, which means when you can look at a customer and you can see what they bought, when they bought it, are they now one of your partners? How much they're earning as your partner as much as how much they're spending, and then like how much of that is in online courses, how much is coming to an event, like no one else does that, right? So that's like super valuable from the community side. So you've got your marketing, which is Dynamo, you've got your community, which is Blaze, right? And then you've then got the key part, which is partnerships, which is the whole Tempo side. It's your golden halo of people you're connecting to who are now your partners. We rely hugely on partners, as many of you know, to fill our events, to come through for our programs, where the real question is, how do we help other people make money instead of being the ones doing it ourselves? So we can then, just like we did in America, like in the last month, we went to Seattle for the first time, we went to Los Angeles, we went to San Diego, to full rooms where I hadn't been there myself for years, and I hadn't ever even been to Seattle. And now I was showing up in these places, and we were running this event and with a full room because all our partners had brought people in as well. And we can do that because we had affiliate systems set up. We had URLs which give everyone their own code so we can track where people come from, where we can then pay out to everyone really easily. Like that takes a lot of effort to put all that infrastructure in place. Well, now with our partner system on Genius U, you get all of that immediately, which means you can just straight away go on there, say, right, I'm going to create my partnership system, and then access all the people who already are partners on the system that actually then will support you with whatever programs you've got as well, which no one else does, right? So that's super valuable. And then finally, the automation is the steel side, and automation is basically all about daily payments, multiple currencies, like making sure everything gets cleared, so you don't have to be the one in there trying to figure out how to pay partners or how to like collect money from customers. It all gets done in the same way Amazon does it for you if you're using Amazon as well, right? But no one's doing this for training and for events, which is what makes us unique with Genius U. So hopefully that helps a little bit, but obviously connect up with Kathleen, go straight into the consultant section of Genius U, and you will find on there all the info for you to go join one of those programs and then to use all those tools. This is all about community building, right? So let's go now onto the other yellow level questions on other topics. We have got here Naomi, who has a question. Hello, Roger. My plumbing business is currently cash flow positive, and my therapy business is cash flow negative. Right? Because she's just got it going. She's one of our circle members. You're doing great, Naomi. Got to, really, the biggest issue Naomi had was she didn't have the confidence to actually do her therapy business. But now she's actually gone out, done it, and she's got her clients on board. Super awesome story. My emotions associated with the plumbing are in it for the money feelings and no clear sense of any flow, contribution to the world of growth. The therapy, on the other hand, is thriving in terms of these things. I have an increasingly clear sense of being my genius and the positive impact my flow is creating in the world. It is not yet thriving financially, though. You suggested in the November Jam call that I make my plumbing system more secure by employing a second subcontractor, because there's obviously business coming in already in the plumbing business, and by investing time and energy marketing to generate more business. I haven't taken action to do this, and I feel heavy even thinking about it, putting it off every day. I feel embarrassed, like I'm not in my integrity doing this somehow. The business also has negative past associations for me. It's 11 years old, lots of years not using my creative genius at all. Please share your thoughts about this. Thank you. Well, Naomi, rather than telling you there's a right or wrong way, what you'll notice, as everyone will notice on this call, is if someone follows a way and it just does not feel like flow to them, I'm never going to say, well, do it anyway, right? Because it's got to feel like flow to you. So always the best thing to do if you're doing something, it's like, well, this makes sense to do, but my spirit and my heart isn't in it. What needs to change here is to give yourself options and to look at what things would look like 3 months down the line, not a year down the line, because this is a typical example of Clark Kent and Superman, right? Like Naomi's Clark Kent time is the plumbing. She knows it makes money. She knows it pays the bills. And then she's got Superman time, which is like the therapy, which is what she loves, where she can go change the world. But Superman doesn't get paid to do that, right? Or Wonder Woman, right? So the real key thing right now is to say, okay, we've got two options. One option is to continue to try and pursue this, but actually limit how much your plumbing is going to be doing in terms of money and time. So you might say, okay, to make sure I buy myself the time and the therapy to not be an infrared, to not be needing the business more than people need me, which means you're always going to kill the business. I need to do 2 days of plumbing a week. I need to make X amount of money a week, and that will be enough. That will buy the other 3 days of the week, and then I'm going to be able to actually then spend my time in the therapy business, right? Until I'm making this much money. And if you say, okay, I've got a plan that in 3 months, I'll be out of the plumbing, right? I'll just go in there, I'll make this thing work, and 3 months later, either I'll find the right person who will take it on, or I'll just close it down because I'll be making enough money on the therapy side at that point, right? That's one plan. But it's about limiting it. It's saying, okay, I can see myself doing that. I don't want to go in infrared because then my therapy business also won't work, right? And I'm going to get to that point. You could then also say the second option, right? Second option is I've now started the therapy. It's now getting me some money. So I could actually say, well, how can I make up that extra difference? Either how many more therapy clients do I need to bring on board? Or who would be willing to invest money in the business, give me a loan so I can pay that back after the thing goes. So I still buy myself my own time, but I'm now doing it in such a way that I'm not kind of like desperately needing the money because I've actually figured out how to fund it as I'm going forward. And if you go, okay, here's a way for me to do that, right? I can fund it, I can still be okay, don't need to do plumbing anymore, and this allows me to actually get the therapy going, and I'm, again, going to give myself 3 months to make sure I hit that number, and you go, okay, that one I feel more comfortable doing, well then obviously do that one. If on the other hand you go, nope, the other one means I don't have a debt to anybody, it means that I can really get going, okay, I feel better that one, do that one, but do one, right? And do whichever one feels best. Nothing's ever going to feel perfect when you're getting started because you've got a lot of stuff you've got to get going, but it will allow you to say, right, that's the best path forward. But most importantly, then act on it, right? Because if you don't act on it, then of course it's just anxiety building up where you're like, oh, geez, I know I'm meant to be doing it, I'm not doing it, which means you're putting a plan together, you're making someone accountable, right? So you're accountable to someone to make sure it works, and always make sure you have at least 2 choices, if not 3. You make that decision, and then you say, right, that's my decision made, and then you move forward with it with action off the back of it as well, right? So you can choose that. Okay, so let's come over next to Gabby here, who says, hello, Roger. Thanks for the great advice last month. The last few months, I've been focusing on selling and promoting in the physical world via art shows, designer markets, pop-up, etc. I need to focus again on my online shop as well as the physical products I sell and ship. Could you recommend me a digital downloadable product that I could also sell online? Many thanks, Gabby. So Gabby is an artist. So her question right now is, well, what can I actually sell, which can be like an online product that I don't actually need to ship to somebody? So Gabby, I'm going to share with you, first of all, a story, right? And it's really for everybody, which then is going to lead to what I would suggest for you. Because you're an artist, right? So there's a real question as to, well, if you're an artist where you do everything basically on paper, where the real value is on something which is physical, how do you do something that's not physical, right? So this is a story of one of our Crystal Circle members and also one of our GEM members, and also has been interviewed on GEM as well. And it's actually a couple, right? So it's Catherine and Russell Ord, and Catherine, runs the Wealth Vector cards now. And when I first had a conversation with Catherine and Russell about Russell's photography business, where he has a business very similar to what you do, right? It's creative. There's a physical product at the end of it, even if it's a documentary, right? And so by knowing that that basically is the end product, especially if it's like high production value, because Russell's photography is all big wave surfing and amazing like sea photography, that if you're just waiting for those deals to come through, you're not creating ongoing flat cash flow. And so what we talked about and what Russell then executed together with Catherine was the thing that could create ongoing cash flow wasn't the actual photography. It was the fact that he could teach people photography. And so what he did was he basically set up a series like surf camps, like photo camps, where he basically takes people to learn how to do big wave photography, where he takes along some surfers as well. And then people, go to exotic locations, they pay for that, and that's really taken off, right? So that gives him ongoing cash flow without him ever having to physically finish a production of a documentary or photography and sell that, right? So you're in exactly the same situation, right? You've got a skill set, which is how to actually express through your art. And there's lots of people who want to learn how to do that, right? And the fact that you could actually say, right, one of the things that I'm going to be running is I'm going to be running a program which is all about, the inside artist, how you can create a business through art, how you can actually express yourself in more effective ways. I'm going to share with you my story, how I do it, and the way I do it, and then the way I actually get out to market stores, how I actually get out to galleries. And there might be people who want to join this who aren't even interested in selling their stuff. They just want to learn how to be better artists. And you can take them through that on webinars, right? You can do that online, right? So for you to do something like that and charge people to actually be learning and from the artists who created like Mini Gabby would definitely, be something that you could actually sell. And then by the way, for everyone on this call, you all have skill sets which someone somewhere is willing to buy, right? And so it's a matter of you saying, well, how would I monetize that in a way that allows me to codify what I know, right? Because the best way to learn is to be a mentor, right? Is to actually pass on your knowledge onto somebody else. So Gabby, you're not doing that at this point, right? You're not actually charging anyone or giving anyone the opportunity to learn how you really do what you do. Lots of people actually want that, right? And so that's the way, for sure, that you could actually sell an online product, okay? Outside of that, the other way you could sell an online product is actually give people a chance to have a Mini Gabby caricature or image or personalized a drawing of some sort for them or for their cause. And that's something you could actually deliver, via online, so they actually have a digital copy of it at the end of it. But that's not as strong, but it's still possible, right? So that would be what I would share you should do. Okay, let's continue here. We are going to go on next to, this one is Danette and Sajid we've covered. We've got Victoria here. All right, final yellow level question, then we've got a few green level questions, right? So Victoria's question, she says, I'm a supporter. I have a digital marketing consultancy. I've transitioned to mainly consulting so that I can scale and take on partnerships for the majority of the marketing execution. I do get a percentage of the cash flow that I send to these, more like an affiliate. With the consultancy, how do you recommend I establish my business to follow the path to have equity or profit share connected to wealth creators? What about with partners and clients? My main service offerings are, number one, flow consultant debriefs and marketing consulting. Number two, team training, referring to partners for now until I build my own training team. Number three, marketing execution, referring to partners for now. So Victoria, a good example of someone who's done something very similar, also, who had the same thing where she was a consultant already, and she's thinking, well, how can I actually be a consultant at a high level, is Jacqueline Pigden. Jacqueline Pigden did this where she was like, you know what, I want to help people with their businesses. First of all, financial consultants, and then all companies that had a purpose. So she actually has a website called High Performance on Purpose. Her background was like as a national rower for Australia. She kind of used that whole kind of athletic side of things to talk about the lessons you can actually have in being kind of world-class in what you do. And she decided to go for fewer clients where she could get a shareholding of their business. And so that's what she's done. It's basically by saying, right, I'll help you create the strategy. I've got, you're at this size right now. I'll help you get to this size. And if I can help you get to that size, then it could be worth this much in additional profit or this much in actual, equity within the business as well, right? So that's a pathway that you could definitely take. But to do it and do it well, you need to niche into you have to build your identity to be number one in a particular niche. So you've got to say, right, well, what kind of, because you can't just be all things to all people. What kind of company would I love to be number one in terms of being able to support and help them? At the high level, and I'm not saying you should do this, but it already works for a lot of people at the high level who understand marketing, which is obviously what you understand. People like Gary Vaynerchuk, people like Tim Ferriss, people like Ashton Kutcher, right? They all set up their own venture capital firms or angel investing firms where they said, look, we'll actually add our expertise with some money to have shares in your business, right? So at some point in the future, you could do that where you're actually saying, right, I'm actually going to position myself not as a consultant where I'm just getting fees, but actually as an investor where I'm going to actually support and improve on their marketing. That's going to make them more valuable, and I'm going to have a share in their business as well. But I'm going to put money in as well, or I'm going to get other people's money in as well as my own expertise. You can only really do that when you've got a really good track record already. So I would start with phase one, which is where you actually are going out and building a number of clients out there where you're actually saying, right, I'm only going to work with 3 or 5 companies where I'm going to be putting more time in, where effectively I become your marketing arm, where I'm going to like prove that I can actually get your result. And then off the back of that, I'd much rather get paid on result, which means you're only going for companies you know you can get results with. And you're either getting a revenue share, a profit share, or an equity share. And start easy. People aren't going to just give you equity out off the bat, but they will be willing to give you profit on new profit you bring in for them, or even a revenue share on the revenue you bring in as well, right? And obviously, all the big marketing agencies, that's kind of how they do it. So that would be my answer to you. Let's come on to the green level questions. We have a few here. First one is from Daniel Geordie, who says, as we are growing Leaders Bridge, my green level company, I'm onboarding the first green level client, meaning I'm not the one delivering. We are expanding the team, especially for the delivery. We are 4 dynamos in the team right now, 2 stars, including me, and 2 creators. The service we're selling is called Investor Attraction. We work with Series A stage companies in fundraising to combine social media content and our network to create an emotional bond between potential investors and the vision and mission of the client company. So obviously going out there, helping on the fundraising. Roger, from experience, who would I rather need on the team in such a situation to make sure the client project is delivered with excellence? I'm worried that our dynamo team may miss on the details and the timing. So I'm thinking about a trader or deal maker, somebody who can still communicate with the client, but is very good at project management, organizing things, timelines, and can coordinate with the people on the client side of the project. Feels like a supporter is too close to me, and I can wing that role myself if needed to get the right people on board. Okay, so 4 dynamos all together. You're right, you know, if you've got someone who is either creator or star, they can always in some way kind of like fill up to some extent that whole client relationship role. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't still be looking for that person, right? Because having someone who constantly is out there, not recreating the wheel all the time, but actually saying, look, we need a template for this. You know, you need to give me like clearer guidance because everything's all over the place. And where you're not basically, you've got to standardize things in some way. And that can only happen if you have a supporter that's actually focusing more 100% on what the client needs, as opposed to creators and stars, where the moment they start listening to a client, they're already like thinking they already know what the client needs, right? And so, you know, because their brain just thinks at a different frequency to someone as a supporter who's going to be asking more questions and really listening more without trying to get to answers quickly, right? So that's why you still need a supporter. Does not mean the supporter has to be the first person, right? The second creator, supporter, next person is going to be accumulator. Accumulators are the best project managers because they are very focused at getting things done on time, which is not the forte of a creator or a star. And even a supporter will often get distracted and get onto other things, whereas the accumulator will make sure you've got the steel part, which is the system, the structure, but also the timing part, right? So definitely, like traders can also be project managers, but generally you need to have a structure in place to make it happen. The accumulators can create that structure too. So I would say get the accumulator first, right? So you can still straddle this role over here. Once you've got the accumulator doing the project management, that's not necessarily the best person to be out there because you're looking for someone who's client-based and also can organize things. You want an accumulator that can do that. Then you've got the client-based side, which is going to be the supporter that can come in, and then you've got a really solid team, right? But that's the way to do it. Okay, let's come over, and good luck with that. Let's come over next to, I think, our final 2 questions. Oh, no, 3 questions. Okay. We have one here from Peter. Easy one. What profile makes the best senior account manager selling into organizations with several decision makers and influencers? The answer on that is star or supporter, right? Not creator, not any of the other ones. Creators can potentially do the job, but generally will drop it at some point because it all gets too boring, right? That's just a reality for a creator. And they'll get onto other things, and you want someone consistently being that senior account manager, constantly looking after the customer without having to recreate everything, right? So there'll be a star number 1, and if you can't get a star, support is number 2. Jasper, Roger almost threw the book Rocket Fuel that you've recommended, so that was on our previous call. As a supporter, I don't score particularly high on any of the 2 profiles, visionary and integrator, who I see as creators and mainly trader accumulator in the wealth dynamics perspective. Could you please elaborate on the visionary integrator model in a wealth dynamics perspective, including your 1, 2, 3 model, and especially the role of the supporter that I see as being ideal for some of the responsibilities that the integrator has in the book, and on the organizational chart in the book versus your team charter? Thank you. Yes, I can do that. So one thing, first of all, really super important is any one of them can be a visionary. Like Nelson Mandela was a trader and he was a visionary. You know, Warren Buffett is an accumulator. He's a visionary, right? Jeff Bezos is a mechanic. He's a visionary, right? So any one of them can be a visionary. A visionary just simply means that you're much, much more focused at strategic level rather than thinking about it from the point of view of like, you know, the levels think about it in terms of the wealth dynamics profile, think about it in terms of the wealth spectrum levels, because really a visionary is the person who's straddling between green and blue, right? Whereas the execution, the operator, is someone who's fully in green and perhaps even a little bit of yellow, right? But ideally fully in green, right? So understanding that link between one and the other is really super important. So for example, if you have number one person, the creator, right? Then that could be the visionary. And then the second person, which is basically supporter, is going to be the executor, right? So that's basically coming back down to integrator, can be running the team. So for example, when I'm working with Michelle, for example, Michelle, really great at execution, but only works great if I'm supporting with her with the vision, right? So we'll have that kind of a conversation. When you have something which is much more investment-based, like for example, Entrepreneur Resorts, like same thing. I'm the visionary as creator. Sandra is the Lord. She's the executor, right? So I tend, like Richard Branson's the same, tends to be a visionary in all these different areas. Like Jeff Bezos, mechanic, same thing, visionary in all these areas. Then having that next second person in place, right? And then from there, the third person is kind of like, like third backup, who should be there, really ensuring that the executor has got a third base. That's something which Rocket Fuel doesn't really get into, but it's super important. If you've got someone who is going to execute and they themselves don't have a right-hand man or right-hand woman, it's not going to work, right? So that is also super important. So the 1, 2, 3, think of the one normally is going to be the visionary, and then the second is going to be the integrator, right? And the third is going to be the integrator support, right? Is generally the way that you will always be able to make it work. And if anyone hasn't read that book, I highly recommend you read it, because making that decision whether or not you're at the point when you're actually ready to be a visionary, which you have to earn the right to be at that level, really, because it's about the levels. Or secondly, if you are someone who's an integrator, which means you actually have green level, you know how to build a team, or you might be the support, which means you don't really know how to do that yet, but you really want to learn, and you're willing to support someone who's at green level to then become green level as well. That's the way to think about it. Okay, final question. Neil Fellows just became director in a speakers agency, helping speakers develop and getting the bookings. It's already in flow, but needs a little bit more energy. As a deal maker, I love this business. So much fun. We already have 7-figure back office already in flow 2. So we have 2 businesses that are maybe yellow 3 to green 1. So just moving to green level, which is great news. Because Neil and Joe have been in the past in Crystal Circle and been in GEM for a long time now. So it's really awesome to see that growth. GWC is still orange to yellow. I also have one other business with other partners, which is at a similar level, which takes about a day a month. What would be your advice to be to a deal maker in terms of how I manage and move these various businesses forward? What system structures, etc., do I need to nail for myself in the business? Okay, well, it's actually kind of very timely because we just talked about team, right? And that's exactly where you need to be thinking, Neil. One thing I want to make as a distinction is you mentioned you've got a couple of the businesses which are yellow 3 to green 1, right? And then you've also got your total wellness, which is orange to yellow. So one really important distinction, it's not the businesses, all businesses are mirrors. So a business can't have a profile. You can't say, I've got a blue business, I've got a green business. It's just who you are, right? And who you are is the way you think by default. So for myself, for example, I don't say Entrepreneur Resources is a blue level business. I don't say, Genius U is a green level business. I don't say that. I say, I'm blue level, where I choose to spend some of my time at green and some of my time at yellow because I want to be on the different lanes. But I'm always constantly starting by blue, which is what's the capital value of what I'm building and what's the way for me to actually resource the green level teams to support them, right? So I'm thinking blue level in that way. And so every day I wake up blue level thinking like that, right? As opposed to thinking I was like, what's my to-do list and going out and actually then like executing on that level. We have people in the team, like I mentioned Michelle earlier, right? Michelle is green level, which means that for her, it's about always like she's waking up saying, right, what's my team up to? How do I support my team? Right? What do I need to do to support that team? But she's not thinking, how do I go out resources business? How do I go out get funding? She's not thinking those things. So she knows I'm the one that's thinking that, right? So she knows, right, Roger's a visionary. He'll go do that thing. That means I've got the things that I need to do at the green level, right? And then there's some people in the team, 100% yellow level. They're not showing up and saying, right, I've got to go out and lead the team and get the results for the team. They're waking up going, I've got to get results myself, right? This is my job to get this result. And that's yellow level. So if you're at the moment waking up and you're like spending more time, even though you might have some teams, saying, right, okay, I've got this whole director of a speaking agency, I've got to get more speakers, and you're thinking yellow level, well, then you're the one with a big to-do list going out having to do all these things. If you say, nope, I'm not going to do it anymore, I'm going to be thinking green level, then it all starts by saying, well, then who do I have as my team members? And if the things that I'm doing, if they're all things that they're doing, right, instead of having a to-do list, you've got a who's doing what list, and it breaks into the different people. And what you actually need to do yourself is not much more than lead those people to get the results. Then you're thinking green level, right? So look at how you're organizing your day when you wake up each day. and move it up to the next level if you're ready for it. If you go, I'm not ready for it yet because I don't have people who are strong yellow level that I can actually manage at green, well, then you've got to actually then say, well, then when am I going to have that? Maybe 3 months from now. Okay, well, who do I need to put in place, or who do I need to train up such that I can then do that and move out of the role where I'm the one doing all the business, right? Then that allows you to move up to green, right? Or similarly blue if you actually had green level people that could just run everything for you, right? And they're your integrators. Or you're at the yellow level where you go, nope, I'm still at yellow level. I've still got to get out there and hustle myself, got to make it all happen myself. Well, then that's where you're at right now as well. So, but what you decide to do at every one of those levels will determine, like, which one you're choosing to be will determine what you then do. You say, what systems and structures do I need? Simple, right? The structure at yellow level is promotion plan. If you do not have a promotion plan with a beginning and end and actions of what you're doing right now, you're not even yellow. You're still at orange, just chasing things, right? But if you've got a plan that you're following and you're then learning or earning through that plan on a week-by-week basis, then you're operating yellow level, right? And you do it with a promotion plan. If you're at green level, you say, that's what I should be doing. You shouldn't be the one putting the promotion plans together. Your teams should be doing that, right? They're the yellow level people. You're the one that's got the team charter, which is overseeing all of the numbers and linking it all to the plan and ensuring that you're giving people the right guidance where your whole focus is on leading that team, right? That's what you should be doing, and that's the tool between that and the flight deck where you've got your plans that they created. You've got your flight deck where you're checking in with them to make sure they're on plan, and if they're not, what they can do differently. And if you're at blue level, you're not doing either of those two things because others already are doing all of that. And what you're doing is you're overseeing the overall strategy. You're checking in with your CEOs who are actually the ones running all of that and basically like saying, how's it going and what support do you need? And you're always focusing at plan B, right? Because plan B is always the blue plan, right? That's the one which is, how am I resourcing this? If this person's not working out, whereas green level would go in and try and train them, you'd be there saying, well, I'm not going to try to train them because if they're not up to the job, then I'll find someone else to do that job. You're not looking for who that other person's going to be, right? So you're constantly looking for the resources at a different level, right? Just like a board of a listed company, don't go in trying to train the CEO if the CEO is not right. They say, look, you've got 6 months to prove yourself. And in the meantime, they're already looking for another CEO, right? So it's very, very different, right? Like where they're not trying to hold on to the instruments. If you're the conductor, you're basically out there just looking for new performers, right? At performer level, you're really making sure that everyone's in sync, right? And at yellow level, you're just playing your instrument, right? You're just playing the guitar, right? So just be really, really aware that each has those tools that you already know of, but you need to basically choose which is the first tool based on which level you're ready for, based on the resources you currently have around you and the way the cash is flowing as well. That is the end of this call with everything covered. Lots of really interesting calls there. My sun's going down here. If you wonder where I am currently at our Thailand resort. This is one of our pool villas that you can see here. So it's kind of like there's a swimming pool. You can go through here. This is where the bedroom is, where it goes out onto there. And there's a bed and everything. And then here's like kitchen area, all that kind of stuff. So we have got 42 villas and rooms in this place, which is super exciting. And we are right now here just going through all of the, talking about plans. This is a blue level plan of basically investing into an entire resort and buying the resort and then basically like taking it to the next level within our company. And so I'm doing promotion plans too, but they're happening at that blue level where it's all about resourcing and then making sure we've got all the due diligence done, that kind of stuff as well. So have a fabulous month ahead, everybody, and look forward to seeing your successes and also questions on the next call. And we will catch up with you later. Bye.